Ryan Miller expected his raise to add $412 a month. Not luxury money, breathing room money, rent, groceries, car insurance, and 1 month where his checking account did not look like it was dying. At 6:17 in the morning, he opened the compensation portal. The apartment was still dark. The dishwasher was humming in the kitchen. His laptop screen was the only light in the room, and on the screen was a sentence that looked harmless. Annual compensation review available. Ryan stared at it for 3 seconds longer than he needed to, because he had already done the math. His manager had hinted at the raise for months, not directly. Managers rarely promise money directly. They use softer language. Strong year, big impact. You really stepped up. Leadership noticed. The team could not have moved this fast without you. So Ryan had built a number in his head. $412 more per month. Not rich money, not quit your job money, not buy a new car money, just breathing room money. $412 meant groceries could go up without turning every Sunday into a math problem. It meant the car insurance renewal would hurt, but not wreck the month. It meant the rent increase would not quietly eat the next 6 months of his life. It meant he could stop looking at his checking account like it was a patient in critical condition. He clicked. The page opened. First came the polished paragraph. Ryan, thank you for your exceptional contributions this year. Your adoption of AI-assisted workflows has improved team responsiveness, reporting speed, and campaign execution. Then came the number. Base salary up, gross annual pay up. On paper, it looked like progress. On paper, the company had rewarded him. Then Ryan opened a calculator. Taxes, retirement withholding, healthcare premium increase, dependent coverage adjustment. A small benefits deduction he did not remember changing. He ran the monthly difference again, then again. $96. Ryan had expected $412. He got $96. At 6:31, his phone buzzed with a utility reminder. At 6:33, the grocery app showed a reorder total higher than last month. At 6:36, a message from a director appeared on Teams. Can the weekly revenue dashboard be ready earlier today? AI should make this much faster now. Ryan looked at the compensation portal, then at the message, then back at the number. $96. That was the moment he understood the trap. AI had not taken his job. That was why he almost missed it. He was still employed, still respected, still invited to meetings, still praised in performance reviews, still useful, still the person people messaged when the dashboard broke, the report looked wrong, the campaign numbers did not match, or leadership needed a cleaner version of reality before Monday morning. There was no layoff email, no badge deactivated, no dramatic meeting with HR, no cardboard box on the desk, nothing that would become a LinkedIn post, just a smaller raise than expected, a bigger workload than before, and the quiet realization that the machine had not replaced him. It had taken the raise his productivity was supposed to earn. That is the part most people are not watching closely enough. Most people are waiting for the loud version of AI disruption, the layoff, the department cut, the headline, the executive saying automation made certain roles unnecessary. But the quieter version arrives first. Your job stays, your title stays, your manager still says you are valuable, but your raise shrinks, your promotion moves to next year. Your team does not backfill the person who left. Your workload expands. Your old speed becomes the new minimum. Your extra effort becomes normal. And the company calls it efficiency. Ryan did not lose his job. He lost the raise his productivity was supposed to earn. That is the AI paycheck trap. And it does not only happen to people in tech. That is the lie that makes the trap comfortable. People hear AI and imagine software engineers, marketers, analysts, designers, consultants, and office workers. But the pattern is bigger than that. A customer support worker does not lose her job because a chatbot takes the easy questions. She keeps the job. But now she handles only the angry customers, the complicated cases, the messy exceptions, and the people who have already been failed by automation. Same pay, harder emotional labor. A designer does not lose all his clients overnight. But clients start saying, can you make 5 options instead of 2? The AI does the rough concept anyway, right? Same deadline, more revisions, lower respect for the craft. An admin worker does not get replaced in one clean move. But now one person manages 3 calendars because AI drafts the emails, schedules the reminders, and creates the summaries. Same title, more people depending on her. A junior employee does not get fired because AI writes the first draft. She gets praised for speed. Then 1 year later, everyone realizes she never learned how to think through the messy version. Polished output, weak foundation. A freelancer does not disappear. But the client says, I know AI can do a lot of this now, so can you do it cheaper? Same skill, lower price. A manager does not replace the team. He simply delays hiring because the existing team is more capable now. Same people, more output, less leverage. That is why the question is not, will AI take my job? That question is too late. The better question is colder. Will AI make my work easier to price? Will it make my effort easier to ignore? Will it make my boss expect more without paying more? Will it make my strongest year turn into a $96 month? Ryan was 36. He worked in marketing operations at a mid-sized software company. Not glamorous work, not founder work, not the kind of job people make movies about. But companies run on people like Ryan. He built dashboards, cleaned campaign data, helped sales and marketing argue from the same numbers, managed email workflows, summarized performance, turned messy information into something executives could skim in 5 minutes and then treat like they had always known it. Before AI became part of the company's operating system, Ryan was considered fast. After AI, fast became the minimum. At first, he liked the tools. That is what made the trap harder to see. He was not anti-AI. He was not the guy in the meeting complaining that everything was better before. He tested the tools early. He used AI to clean rough drafts, summarize call transcripts, write first-pass reports, generate campaign variants, organize messy notes from meetings where 10 people spoke and 3 said anything useful. For a while it felt like leverage. He could do better work in less time. He could respond faster. He could turn chaos into structure. His manager noticed, his colleagues noticed, even the VP noticed. Then the praise changed shape. At first people said, Ryan, that was impressive. Then they said, Ryan, can you do that again? Then they said, Ryan, can you do that every week? Then they said, Ryan, why is this taking until Friday? That was the first turn. The compliment was not the reward. The compliment was the beginning of higher expectations. By the time Ryan opened that compensation portal, the company had already absorbed his improvement. His better output was no longer exceptional. It was baseline. A baseline is what people now expect as normal. Once your exceptional work becomes normal, it stops feeling like something the company has to pay extra for. It becomes the new floor. Ryan's mistake was not using AI. That would be a stupid lesson. His mistake was assuming that higher productivity automatically meant higher pay. That assumption sounds logical. If you produce more, you should earn more. If you save the company time, the company should share some of the gain. If your tools make you stronger, your paycheck should reflect it. But the real world is not that clean. Technology does not automatically make workers richer. Sometimes it raises output while the gains flow to whoever owns the system, whoever controls the workflow, whoever sets the budget, whoever measures productivity, whoever decides how the savings get distributed. Ryan saw a smarter assistant. The company saw capacity. Ryan saw a way to do deeper work. The company saw a way to stretch the same team, same tool, different incentives. And that is where most AI career advice becomes dangerously shallow. Learn AI, use AI, prompt better, become more productive. Fine, do all of that. But do not confuse tool skill with career safety. That is the trap. A worker can become faster and still become weaker. A worker can produce more and still have less leverage. A worker can become the best AI user on the team and still watch the company use that improvement to freeze hiring, delay promotions, and shrink raises. That is the uncomfortable part. The danger is not only that you fail to use AI, the danger is that you use AI perfectly and someone else keeps the upside. If you use AI to produce more, and your company uses that extra output to delay raises, freeze headcount, combine roles, increase workload, or call your old speed inefficient, then AI did not put more money in your pocket. It helped perform an autopsy on your paycheck while you were still alive. Ryan saw it clearly at 8:42 that morning. The company held an AI workflow rollout. The slide deck was clean, white background, blue icons, words like efficiency, empowerment, acceleration, alignment. Nobody said, we are going to make you do more work for roughly the same money. They did not need to. The director said the company was entering a new phase of operational excellence. Reports should be more frequent. Client summaries should go out faster. Internal memos should be cleaner. Meetings should come with automatic action items. Drafts should no longer start from zero. AI was no longer a special advantage. It was becoming the baseline. Then came the line Ryan would remember later. We are not replacing people with AI. We are making every person more capable. It sounded reassuring. But Ryan noticed what was missing. No one said raises would become more capable. No one said promotion slots would become more capable. No one said team budgets would become more capable. 3 weeks earlier, a marketing analyst named Evan had left for another company. Ryan assumed they would replace him. They did not. At first, Evan's work was divided across 3 people. Then it was softened with AI. The first month, everyone called it temporary. The second month, nobody used that word. By the third month, the missing person had disappeared from the budget, but not from the workload. That is headcount compression. Simple meaning. The company does not always fire people. Sometimes it just refuses to replace them. Then the remaining workers absorb the work. And because AI is now in the building, leadership tells itself the team can handle it. It does not always feel like a layoff. Sometimes it feels like your calendar getting heavier, a Slack channel that never sleeps, a manager saying, "Can you just use AI for the first draft?" A weekly report becoming a daily report, a same-day turnaround that used to be a 3-day project, a team that is always almost hiring but somehow never hires. Ryan's title did not change, but the work inside the title expanded. That is why job titles can mislead you in the AI era. A job title is just the label on the box. The real value is inside the box. The tasks, the judgment, the relationships, the decisions, the context, the errors you catch before they become expensive. When AI opens that box, each task can be priced separately. Some tasks stay valuable. Some tasks become cheaper. Some tasks go to AI. Some tasks go to a contractor. Some tasks get pushed onto whoever remains. That is task repricing. Your job title survives, but parts of your job become cheaper. And once parts of your job become cheaper, your whole paycheck can come under pressure. This is not because AI is magical. It is not. AI makes mistakes. It hallucinates. It misses context. It produces confident nonsense. It can make weak thinking look finished. But AI does not need to be perfect to weaken your paycheck power. It only needs to be good enough. Good enough to create a first draft. Good enough to summarize a meeting. Good enough to make a manager ask why something took 3 days. Good enough to reduce the need for one extra hire. Good enough to make leadership believe the team can do more without a bigger budget. That is the trap. Ryan was not competing against a robot that could do his entire job. He was competing against a new expectation that his job should now produce more for roughly the same cost. And once you see this pattern, you start seeing it everywhere. The same story wears different uniforms. In one job, it looks like faster reports. In another job, it looks like fewer support tickets. In another, cheaper design work. In another, junior employees who sound senior before they can actually think senior. Different industries, same squeeze. The easy work disappears, the hard work remains, and the paycheck does not adjust. Maya worked in customer support. Before the chatbot, she handled normal questions all day. Password resets, billing confusion, shipping delays, account changes. Annoying, yes, but manageable. Then the company rolled out AI support. The chatbot handled the easy tickets. Leadership celebrated the reduced volume. But the easy tickets were not the whole job. They were the breathing room inside the job. Once the easy work disappeared, Maya's queue changed. Now she got the customers who were already angry. The cases the bot failed. The edge cases. The refunds that needed judgment. The people who typed representative 6 times because the system had trapped them in a loop. The company said AI had reduced support burden. Maya's body disagreed. At the end of the day, she was more drained than before. Same title, same pay, harder work. But on a dashboard, it looked like efficiency. Luis was a freelance designer. He used AI too. He was not scared of tools. He used them to generate references, test concepts, speed up mood boards, and explore directions. Then the client language changed. Can you give us 10 options by tomorrow? Can you lower the fee since AI handles the rough part? Can you also do the copy? Can you also make the short-form versions? Can you also resize for every platform? AI did not make Luis unnecessary. It made clients believe more work should cost less. That is paycheck pressure, not job loss. Paycheck pressure. Priya was an entry-level analyst. She loved AI because it made her look competent fast. Her first reports were cleaner than they should have been. Her summaries looked senior. Her slides looked polished. Her manager praised her speed. Then one afternoon, Ryan reviewed one of her AI-assisted recommendations. It looked excellent. Clear headings, confident tone, 3 recommended actions, a neat risk section. 5 years earlier, that kind of document would have taken a junior employee most of the day. Priya had made it in 40 minutes. Ryan almost approved it. Then he checked the numbers. The recommendation was based on the wrong customer segment. It compared enterprise buyers to small business buyers as if they behaved the same way. It treated a temporary promotion spike as a trend. It ignored a regional campaign that had distorted the last 2 weeks of data. The document looked senior. The thinking was junior. Ryan messaged her. Quick question. Why do you think this recommendation makes sense for enterprise accounts? 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, she wrote back. The model said the conversion pattern was strongest there. Ryan stared at the message. That was not an answer. It was a receipt. And that is when Ryan saw the second trap. AI can make weak thinking look finished. That may help you survive one deadline, but it can quietly destroy the skill that would have made you valuable 5 years from now. Because the market does not reward polished documents forever. Eventually, it rewards the person who knows when the polished document is wrong. To be clear, Priya was not lazy. She was anxious. She wanted to do well. She used the tools the company told her to use. She had been praised for speed. She had been told AI would help her skip the busy work. But she had also skipped part of the struggle. She had not wrestled with the messy data long enough to notice what it was hiding. That is the skill ladder problem. Some boring work is waste, but some boring work is apprenticeship in disguise. In simple terms, some boring work is how you learn. A junior analyst learns by cleaning the data. A marketer learns by writing bad first drafts. A support worker learns by handling repetitive questions until patterns become instinct. A consultant learns by building the ugly first version of the deck. A designer learns by making bad concepts before recognizing good ones. A writer learns by writing sentences that do not work. A coder learns by debugging the thing that should have worked but did not. Remove the struggle too early, and you may remove the practice that builds judgment. At first, AI makes the junior person look stronger. Later, the missing foundation shows up. That is why the future is not as simple as AI will remove boring work. Some boring work should die, but some boring work was training. And if workers skip the training, they may become faster in the short term and weaker in the long term. That is a brutal trade, because companies love polished output. They reward speed, they celebrate efficiency, they ask people to produce more with less friction. But the worker who never develops judgment becomes easier to replace later. Ryan thought about his own early career, manually checking spreadsheet rows, pulling campaign lists, writing summaries no executive remembered, sitting in meetings where he barely understood the acronyms. At the time, he thought he was being underused. Now he realized he had been training. Every annoying task had given him pattern recognition. Every mistake had taught him what to check. Every messy dataset had taught him where numbers lie. Every awkward meeting had taught him which executive questions were real and which ones were theater. AI could accelerate some of that, but it could not magically install judgment. And judgment was becoming the real scarce thing. Scarce means hard to find, hard to copy, hard to fake, harder to price down. This is the deeper reveal inside the AI paycheck autopsy. AI is not only automating tasks, it is changing which parts of work are rare. If your value is producing average words, average summaries, average reports, average slide outlines, average code snippets, average research briefs, average designs, average recommendations, or average customer responses, you are standing in the danger zone. Not because you are bad, because average output is becoming easier to generate. That is the uncomfortable point. AI does not have to make you useless. It only has to make your most visible output less rare. And when your output looks less rare, your bargaining power weakens. Bargaining power is simple. It is your ability to ask for more money without being easily delayed, ignored, replaced, compared, outsourced, or stretched. Ryan's bargaining power had not collapsed overnight. It had been shaved down slowly. One AI-assisted draft at a time. One missing backfill at a time. One can you turn this around today at a time. One we are evaluating team capacity at a time. One raise cycle at a time. But the real test did not happen in a dashboard. It happened in a conversation. Because sooner or later, every invisible worker reaches the same moment. You have done more. You have moved faster. You have helped the company save time. You have absorbed the missing person's work. Now you sit across from your manager and find out whether any of that value comes back to you. That is where motivation dies. Not when the work is hard. When the work is praised, measured, used, and still not paid for. The next week, Ryan met his manager for a compensation follow-up. His manager was not cruel. That almost made it worse. Cruel people are easier to hate. She looked tired. The kind of tired that comes from spending the morning defending budgets to people above her and the afternoon explaining disappointment to people below her. Ryan had prepared. He listed the dashboards rebuilt, the reporting hours saved, the campaign turnaround time reduced, the AI workflows he helped standardize, the extra responsibilities he absorbed after Evan left. His manager nodded. She agreed with almost all of it. Then she said the sentence every employee learns to hate. The company really values what you are doing, but this was a constrained cycle. A constrained cycle. That meant the money existed somewhere, but not here. It meant performance could be praised without being priced. It meant Ryan's output had grown faster than the compensation pool. He asked about promotion timing. She said maybe next year. He asked about backfilling Evan's role. She said leadership wanted to evaluate team capacity after the AI transition. There it was again. Team capacity. A clean phrase for human stretching. That was productivity capture. Productivity capture means you produce more, but someone else keeps the gain. No villain needed, no illegal theft, no dramatic conspiracy, just a workflow change, a missing hire, a tighter raise pool, a productivity story, a manager with limited budget, a company that absorbed the savings before the worker could negotiate his share. That is why the AI paycheck autopsy matters. Because if you only look for job loss, you may miss paycheck loss. If you only ask, will AI replace me? You may miss the sharper question. Will AI make my work easier to price? Will it make my output less rare? Will it make my boss expect more without paying more? Will it turn my strongest year into a $96 month? This is not going to hit only weak workers. That is what makes it dangerous. It would be comforting if the story was simple. Lazy people lose. Smart people win. People who refuse technology fall behind. People who learn AI move ahead. But Ryan was not lazy. He was not slow. He was not anti-AI. He was competent, useful, adaptable, and tired. That is the profile nobody wants to talk about. The AI paycheck trap hits instruction followers first. First draft workers, invisible efficient workers, people far from customers, people far from revenue, people whose output is easy to describe, people whose work is easy to compare, people whose value exists only inside one company's walls, people who use AI to produce faster but never prove what that production is worth. Ryan had years of useful work behind him, but almost nothing he could show outside the company. His dashboards were internal. His process improvements were internal. His AI workflows were internal. His value existed, but it was trapped inside someone else's walls. That is when the fear changed. At first, Ryan was scared of AI replacing him. Then he realized something worse. He was scared of AI making him permanently cheaper. That sentence stayed with him. Not replaced, cheaper, still working, still useful, still praised, still tired, still underpaid. That is a darker trap because it looks like stability from the outside. You still have the job, you still have the badge, you still have the Slack account, you still have the direct deposit, but your work is slowly being pulled into a machine where more output is expected, less training is protected, fewer people are hired, and the financial upside moves away from the worker. That is not a future problem, that is a paycheck problem. At this point, Ryan had two choices. He could become bitter and keep doing the same thing, or he could admit something most workers hate admitting. Being useful is not the same as having leverage. Being praised is not the same as being protected. Being busy is not the same as being valuable. And being good at your job does not automatically mean your paycheck will follow. That is not fair, but it is real. So Ryan stopped trying to prove that he worked hard. He started proving that his work changed outcomes. He stopped asking the weak question. The weak question was, how do I use AI? Everyone serious will use AI. That is not enough. The better question was, how do I keep AI from making me faster, cheaper, and easier to ignore? That became the beginning of his AI paycheck defense system. Not a motivational plan, not a weekend course, not a fantasy where one new skill fixes everything. A defense system. Because the problem was not effort. Ryan was already working hard. The problem was capture. The company had captured his productivity before his paycheck did. So the first move was simple. Stop letting productivity stay invisible. For every AI-assisted workflow he owned, Ryan began documenting the before and after. How long did the report take before? How long does it take now? Which errors were reduced? Which bottleneck disappeared? Which customer response improved? Which sales conversation became easier? Which risk was caught earlier? Which budget decision became clearer? Which revenue conversation did the work support? He did not write a self-congratulatory essay. He built evidence. Before, the monthly campaign dashboard took 2 days of manual cleanup. After, it took 4 hours of review and exception checking. Before, regional summaries arrived late and inconsistent. After, Ryan built a template that produced a fast first pass, but required human checks on segment, seasonality, budget context, and data quality. Before, leadership asked for numbers and waited. After, they got decision-ready analysis before the meeting. The point was not, look how fast AI is. The point was, look what business problem I removed. That difference matters. Faster output can be absorbed. Visible value can be negotiated. Most workers make the mistake of showing activity. Tasks completed, reports sent, meetings attended, tickets closed, drafts generated, dashboards updated. That is not enough anymore. Tasks are easy to price. Outcomes are harder to ignore. So Ryan changed the language. Not, I made the report faster. The report now helps sales identify which campaigns produce qualified conversations. Not, I summarized the calls. The summaries now reveal the objections that slow down renewals. Not, I automated the weekly deck. The workflow now reduces executive confusion before budget decisions. Not, I used AI. I used AI to remove a business bottleneck. That is the first defense. Tie your work to outcomes, not effort. The second move was to build judgment AI could not fake. Ryan wrote one sentence on a sticky note and put it beside his monitor. The tool can draft, but I must decide. That sounds simple until pressure hits. AI can generate a confident recommendation, but it may not know which assumption matters. AI can summarize complaints, but it may not know which complaint signals churn. AI can clean a report, but it may not know that two departments define the same metric differently. AI can produce a polished paragraph, but it may not know that the paragraph answers the wrong question. Ryan stopped using AI only to produce. He started using it to interrogate. Before he asked for a draft, he asked himself, what decision will this support? What happens if this is wrong? What context is missing? What would a senior person check before trusting this? Who benefits if this recommendation is accepted? What hidden assumption could break the entire thing? Then he used AI to test his thinking, not replace it. Give me the strongest counter-argument. Show me what data would make this conclusion false. List the assumptions behind this recommendation. What would a skeptical CFO ask? What would an angry customer notice? What would a competitor exploit? That was different. He was no longer using AI to avoid thinking. He was using AI to make thinking harder to fake. This changed how he worked with Priya too. Before, he silently fixed her AI-generated memos. That made him faster, but it did not build her skill. So he started reviewing with her. He opened one memo and asked, what assumption is this making? She started reading the sentence on the screen. Ryan stopped her. No, not what it says, what it assumes. That question changed the room. She began to see the hidden layer, the segment assumption, the budget assumption, the timeline assumption, the customer assumption, the idea that clean writing could hide weak thinking. That was judgment. And judgment is not built by skipping the hard part. It is built by staying with the hard part long enough to see what a shortcut would have missed. The third move was to move closer to money. This is where many workers get uncomfortable. They want to be good at the craft. They want to be dependable. They want to be useful. That is fine. But if you are far from money, your work is easier to treat like a cost. Closer to money does not mean becoming greedy. It means understanding where value is created and where decisions change behavior. Revenue, customers, retention, sales, risk, trust, distribution, cost reduction, decision-making, ownership. The closer you are to those things, the harder you are to ignore. Ryan started joining sales review calls he used to avoid. Not to perform, not to talk too much, to listen. He listened to customers explain why they hesitated. He listened to sales complain about lead quality. He listened to finance question campaign spending. Then he changed his reports. Before he wrote, email campaign performance improved. Now he wrote, this campaign produced more qualified sales conversations in the mid-market segment, but enterprise leads showed lower intent. Increasing spend there would likely waste budget. That is not just reporting, that is decision support. And decision support is harder to price like a commodity. The fourth move was to build proof outside the job title. Ryan resisted this. He did not want to become a personal brand guy. He did not want to turn every work lesson into a dramatic LinkedIn post. Fair. Most of that content is noise. But external proof does not have to be cringe. It can be a small portfolio, anonymized case studies, a workflow breakdown, a useful template, a freelance project, a network of people who know what you can actually do. The point is not to get rich overnight. That is fantasy. The point is optionality. Optionality means you have more than one path, so you are not forced to accept whatever one employer decides you are worth. When one paycheck is your whole future, you negotiate from fear. When you have proof, relationships, and market signals outside your employer, you may still feel pressure, but you are not trapped in the same way. Ryan started small. One evening a week, he rewrote internal lessons into public-safe case studies with no confidential data, reducing reporting delays, using AI to identify data quality problems without trusting AI to make the final call, turning automated summaries into decision-ready analysis, building human checks into AI workflows. He sent one to an old colleague who had moved to another company. The colleague replied, "We have this exact problem. Could you help us build something similar?" It was not a fortune. It was a small paid project, but it changed Ryan's psychology. For the first time in months, his value did not exist only inside the HR portal. That mattered, because the AI future is not just a tool shift, it is a power shift. The fifth move was to stop being only dependable. This sounds harsh, but it is true. Dependable is good. Interchangeable is dangerous. A dependable worker gets trusted. An interchangeable worker gets stretched. A dependable worker gets more tasks. A differentiated worker gets leverage. Ryan had been dependable for years. He answered messages, fixed reports, smoothed out chaos, helped other people look prepared. but too much of his work disappeared into being a good team player. That is a common trap. The invisible, efficient worker becomes the person everyone relies on, but no one knows how to price. So Ryan changed what he made visible. Not every task, not every favor, not every hour. Only the work that changed outcomes. He built a simple evidence file. Business outcomes created, not tasks completed. Under it, he listed the reporting cycle he shortened, the forecast error he helped catch, the wasted spend he helped prevent, the customer segment insight that changed a campaign, the AI workflow he built with human checks, the revenue conversation he supported, the decision he made clearer. This time, he did not walk into the next performance conversation hoping his manager remembered his value. He brought evidence. Would that guarantee a bigger raise? No. Anyone who tells you otherwise is selling comfort. Companies still have budgets. Managers still have constraints. Executives still capture gains before they share them. Technology still strengthens the side that controls deployment, measurement, and compensation. But Ryan was no longer playing blind. He understood the game. AI had not only changed his workflow, it had changed what counted as leverage. And this is the question you need to answer honestly. Not whether you are busy. Busy is easy. Not whether you use AI. That is becoming normal. Not whether your boss likes you. Liked workers get underpaid every day. The question is whether your work is becoming easier to price, easier to compare, easier to absorb, and easier to stretch. If the answer is yes, you have work to do. You need to make your value visible. You need to build judgment while using the tool. You need to move closer to money, customers, risk, trust, and decisions. You need proof outside the job title. You need to stop hiding behind being dependable, because the future will not punish everyone equally. It will punish the average, the invisible, the dependent, the interchangeable, the easy-to-price worker. It will punish people who use AI to avoid learning, people whose work becomes polished but not valuable, people who produce more without proving what that production is worth, people who let their employer capture every productivity gain for free. But it will also reward a different kind of worker, the person who uses AI to think better, not just faster, the person who can explain the decision, not just produce the document, the person who spots the risk, understands the customer, builds skill instead of outsourcing the struggle, creates visible business value, and has options. That is the real defense, not fear, not hype, not pretending the old career ladder is still solid, and definitely not believing that one AI course will save you. So do not measure your AI future by whether you still have a job. That is too shallow. Measure it by what happens to your bargaining power. Can you ask for more money and prove why? Can you show outcomes, not tasks? Can you explain decisions, not just produce documents? Can you point to value outside your employer's walls? Can you use AI without becoming easier to price down? Because that is the real scoreboard now, not employment, leverage. Go back to the number Ryan saw that morning. 412 expected, 96 received. That number was not just a disappointing raise, it was evidence of the new game. His company praised productivity, absorbed output, delayed headcount, compressed the raise, expanded expectations, and called the year successful. From the company's side, maybe it was. From Ryan's side, it was a warning. AI may not fire you first. It may make your raise disappear first. It may make your workload expand first. It may delay your promotion first. It may weaken your bargaining power first. It may make your skill look polished before it becomes deep. It may turn your strongest year into a smaller paycheck than you expected. That is why you cannot treat AI like a toy. And you cannot treat it like a monster either. A toy makes you casual. A monster makes you freeze. AI is neither. It is leverage. And leverage always asks the same question. Who controls the gain? If you use AI quietly, your company may capture the gain. If you use AI only to produce more drafts, you may become cheaper. If you use AI to skip the hard part, you may become weaker. If you use AI to make average work faster, you may become easier to replace. But if you use AI to build judgment, prove outcomes, move closer to money, create external proof, and become harder to ignore, then the tool changes sides. That is the line. Not AI users versus non-AI users. That divide is too simple. The real divide is output generators versus judgment builders. Output generators make more stuff. Judgment builders make better decisions. Output generators produce drafts. Judgment builders know what the draft is missing. Output generators move faster. Judgment builders move the business. Output generators wait to be recognized. Judgment builders bring evidence. Output generators depend on one employer's opinion. Judgment builders build proof the market can see. Ryan did not become safe. That would be a fake ending. He still had the same company badge, the same meetings, the same bills, the same grocery pressure, the same compensation cycle that might disappoint him again. but his posture changed. He stopped using AI quietly while the company captured all the gain. He stopped letting extra work disappear into being a team player. He stopped confusing speed with leverage. He stopped thinking his title was the asset. His asset became clearer: judgment, business context, visible proof, customer understanding, process ownership, optionality. The job title was just packaging. A few months after the compensation review, Ryan opened a new document before his next performance conversation. At the top, he wrote, "Business outcomes created, not tasks completed." That small change was more important than it looked, because AI had changed the game, and Ryan had finally stopped playing the old one. So if you are listening to this, do not ask only whether AI can replace your job. That question is too obvious. Ask whether AI is already touching your paycheck. Ask whether your workload is expanding while your pay barely moves. Ask whether your company is delaying hiring because the current team is more capable now. Ask whether your promotion keeps moving to next year. Ask whether your best work is invisible. Ask whether your output is getting easier to compare. Ask whether you are using AI to build skill or avoid the practice that would have made you valuable. Ask whether your employer can capture your productivity before you can negotiate it. Because the first AI paycheck cut may not look like a cut. It may look like praise. It may look like efficiency. It may look like empowerment. It may look like a cleaner workflow. It may look like a raise that technically exists. Until you run the numbers. 412 expected, 96 received, workload up, output up, speed up, paycheck barely moved. That is the autopsy. AI is not taking your job first. It is taking the part of your paycheck you thought higher productivity would earn. And if you do nothing, the machine will not need to fire you to win. It will simply make you more useful, more stretched, more replaceable, and less expensive than you were supposed to become. The future will not belong to people who merely use AI. Everyone will use AI. The future will belong to people who use AI to become harder to price, harder to replace, harder to stretch, and harder to ignore.